Finally, we've got today the resignation of Rebekah Brooks, who's the chief executive of News International. She stepped down after after constant pressure, really, from all sides, from politicians, from the media, and crucially from one of the major shareholders now. And I think that was probably the last straw.
Indications are for her involvement in this matter is explicit. For sure, she has to go. You bet she has to go. Ethics to me is very important. Definitely. I will not accept and tolerate to deal with a company that has a lady or a man that has any sliver of doubts on her or her integrity.
She clearly had the favour of particularly Rupert Murdoch, and he even described her as the daughter he never had. Not sure how his actual daughter felt about that. I think that this is what this has shown is a real kind of lack of judgment. Well, there's a lack of judgment on the part of many people in News Corporation, but specifically on Rebekah. She was the chief executive of the company, which was embroiled in a massive national scandal. And in any other public company, the chief executive, faced with that level of criticism and that level of problems, would have resigned immediately, and she didn't. The resignation of Rebekah Brooks leaves James Murdoch now horribly exposed, I think, at News Corporation. There are now questions over his involvement, of course. The £700,000 settlement that he signed off on for Gordon Taylor, the chief executive of the Professional Footballers Association, that bought his silence over the criminal acts that were perpetrated against him. Was that settlement in effect? Is that open to questions that it was perverting the course of justice? That's a really serious accusation. So things for James Murdoch are not looking good at the moment. Rebekah Brooks' resignation statement was really interesting and telling in many ways, I think. She talked about wanting to clear her name. And I think this really kind of just describes an arrogance at the top of News International and illustrates how their failure to get to grips with this, because it's not really about whether she was involved or not. She may or may not have been. That will all come out in the relevant inquiries. The thing is that she was the chief executive of the company, and it is meant to be a public company with shareholders that is responsive to those people. She's also meant to be the chief executive of a company of newspapers that's famously responsive to its audience. Failed very much to respond, held on, kicking, and had to be dragged away, kicking and screaming, and is still talking about clearing her name when that's really not the issue.
Well, I'm pleased that Rebekah Brooks has finally accepted responsibility for what happened on her watch as editor of the News of the World, the hacking of the phones of Millie Dowler, for example. But as I said when I called for her resignation 10 days ago, this isn't just about one individual, it's about the culture of an organisation. And when Rupert Murdoch says that News International have handled these allegations extremely well, I think people up and down the country will be thinking that really beggars belief.
I mean, I think there are even bigger questions as to whether News Corporation, well, certainly whether News International, in terms of the UK newspapers, will exist in a few months' time, and whether even the circling hawks in the United States means that News Corporation gets broken up, which is not impossible. So the question about whether she has a job in News International or News Corporation in a few months' time may be a moot point.
That's where we're going.
One of the characteristics of this story is News Corporation's failure to act straight away. In a sense, they're sort of almost a week behind events. Rebekah Brooks could have been expected to have resigned. Indeed, we understand she did offer to resign a week ago, and her resignation wasn't accepted. This shows that Rupert Murdoch really invested a lot in her. Remember when those pictures were shown of them all at the Mayfair restaurant? Rupert Murdoch was asked, what's your focus now? He pointed to Rebekah Brooks and said she is. So clearly there was a lot of personal investment in her by Rupert Murdoch. Some cynics even say he closed the News of the World to save her. Didn't work, of course. So that's the reason why it's taken so long. But now News Corporation has bowed to the inevitable with the intervention of Sheikh Walid bin Talal Al Saud. He's one of the principal shareholders in News International. Pretty much said on Newsnight this week that she had to go. I think that was the final straw.